Well, first of all, thanks for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk a little bit about the local media and the difficulties that we are in at the minute. So my role is helping the Dorset Echo, the Bournemouth Echo and the Daily Echo in Southampton on a regional basis in trying to explain why we've got a subscription model on the website. Obviously, sometimes it's called a paywall. We don't really like that term, but I mean, that's what it is. So everybody's been affected by the virus, and some industries clearly a lot worse than we have. But nevertheless, we've had two things that have really hit us badly. One is advertising revenue, because lots of businesses are closed, and that's fallen dramatically. And the other thing is because people aren't going out quite so much, they aren't buying as many copies of the paper, so our cover price revenue from the papers is going down, or has gone down quite considerably. Hopefully that will come back when people start going out and about again, but you never know. Sometimes people can get out of the habit of doing things. We have to find quite quickly an alternative form of revenue, and that is the subscription model to the website. We have never, the Dorset Echo, the Bournemouth Echo, and all the papers around Newsquest have never charged for the website. Some people would have argued that maybe we should have done that from the beginning, because news has a cost, has a price, but we've obviously given it all away for free in the last few years since we had the website. And obviously now we need to have done that. Now it's not completely, you can still access the website. You don't have to pay from the first minute. So you can still access 40 articles free a month before you hit the paywall. And actually, that doesn't include all the COVID-19 stories. They are all still free on the basis that that's vital public information and we shouldn't be charging for that. So yeah, and then so essentially that's the pitch really. That we do hope that people will support their local press, the Dorset Echo in this instance, but all the other papers around Newsquest, Bournemouth Echo as well, which I know you're very familiar with, because we have to find a way to fund professional, trusted local journalism, and we still have to pay the reporters to do their job. And I think, although it's easy to say that a lot of people criticise what the press do, and wow, hasn't the press and the media had a hammering over their coverage of the pandemic? Some of it correctly, some of it very, very unfairly, I think, particularly at a local level. We have to agree, I think, that although newspapers never win popularity contests, that a trusted local press is really, really important to our communities, to supporting the business community, to supporting charities and other community groups, and to bring people the news that they can actually rely on and believe in, as opposed to all the stuff that's on social media, or a lot of stuff that's on social media that is complete disinformation.
And I think that certainly from my perspective, I haven't bought a hard copy paper since God was a girl, but I read every day via the online medium, subscription and otherwise, national and local papers. And I think more and more potentially people are doing that now. So is there anything you're doing differently with the subscription and the website than you would normally with the paper copies?
No, not really. I think obviously, apart from the fact that all the guys are working remotely, so it's obviously more difficult, and same as lots of businesses, of course, but reporters are working from their front rooms or their offices, or from their bedrooms or whatever. So pulling all that together is a complex task. Producing a newspaper every day with people scattered all over the place. But again, that may well be a model for the future. I mean, it can be done. People can see it's done, and therefore that may well inform how newspapers are organised. After this, the online audience has always been, in the last few years, a lot bigger than the print audience, for obvious reasons, because it's easier to click online. So our audience has been counted in its millions, like 25, 30 million page views every month. And that's a lot. That's a huge audience. In terms of unique users, that's the number of different people who use devices to access the website. Again, you're talking several million a month. So that is a huge audience. So it reaches a lot of people. To have that many people reading the papers, reading the Dorset Echo and the Bournemouth Echo, is great. But as I said before, it does come at a cost. And one of my other hats for Newsquest is I look after all the trainees. I train all the trainee journalists to get them their professional qualifications, so they come through and be senior journalists and hopefully make a really good contribution to journalism and serving the public. And so I know how much it costs to train these guys, how much it costs to keep them on the payroll to do the job that we think, hopefully others will agree, is really vital for our communities. So that's where we are with that. And in terms of the business community, we've always worked very closely with organisations like the Chambers, certainly the bids we're working very closely with at the minute, and individual organisations and companies. And I think the media has a really important role in helping reset the economy, the recovery of the economy, to shout about the success of what business is doing, to explain innovation, just to highlight, what businesses are up to, and to help to give people confidence. So in terms of the high streets, there are clearly a lot of people who are concerned about coming back to the high street, and they want reassurance. They want to be happy that it is safe to come back. And I think the media can play a key part in that. So in terms of working with the business communities across the whole of Dorset, with you guys, with the Chambers, the bids, I think that's really important, and a key part of what we do.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that you'll agree with me that maybe this presents an opportunity. There are, many of the businesses in my network, me included. So, as you know, I run networking groups, normally face to face across 3 counties, and now we're all on Zoom, and we have the opportunity for people to access members and guests in all sorts of areas. Is there an opportunity for business to have a closer relationship with you guys, to get, at the end of the day, opportunities for them to get some marketing for their businesses that could have stalled? Because I'm forever saying to them, you've got to keep out there, and out there is online, you've got to keep going, because at some point the world will get better, and we need to be ready to go, as opposed to hibernating and worrying about the potential impacts anyway.
Yeah, without question. And I think that was partly what I was saying earlier on, that we are here to promote business, what business is doing to help, like what business networks are doing, what people like you guys are doing, and the Chambers and what have you, how they're supporting businesses, and what businesses are doing for themselves, what businesses are achieving success. So, for example, I had a really good chat with a guy who works out of Ferndown Industrial Estate, and up until about 6 weeks ago, his company did branding work for big household names, in-store pop-ups and just general branding across the whole spectrum. That all dried up very overnight, and he started producing hundreds of thousands of face masks and face shields. Yeah. Brilliant. So fantastic story. He sent me a picture this morning, actually, of the guys outside the factory with all their masks on. So that that keeps his company in profile. B, it says what a fantastic job business is doing to help the National Health Service, and the care system and others. When he's ready to come back and do his normal job, we'll be there to report on that as well. And that's just one example. Yeah. Across many, many hundreds in Dorset. And I think you're absolutely right. Businesses that are quiet and don't shout about what they're doing when they're not doing anything, they need to be reminding people that they're around and that they are working on new plans. They're working on, diversification. They're looking at new ways of working, because people will think they've disappeared when actually they haven't. They're just waiting to come back. And again, that goes back to my point that I think the media has not only does it have a role, it has a huge responsibility in actually being part of the recovery for the business community and for the wider economy. Absolutely critical.
And you're right. We've got loads of businesses in the West that are pivoting and doing that sort of amazing work to support all sorts of people within the community. Something you mentioned that I am also interested in, probably because I've got twin girls of 22 that just finishing masters and have plans to get jobs, and reading this morning about the challenges that are going to be for young people. Do you think you look after the trainee journalists? Do you think they'll be cutting back in your organisation? I know it's got a big reach.
It's difficult to say. I mean, I noticed the other day that one newspaper group, it's not a big one, but it's a regional based one, is looking at cutting back both advertising, sales staff and journalists. So what happens in one newspaper group normally happens in others. Obviously, they've all got different business models, different ideas about how to go forward. But although we would, even if we were to cut back, we'd still be there to offer, a trusted news service, covering what the community does, covering what businesses do. So The answer to your question is I don't know.
Oh.
But what I do know is that the Dorset Echo and the Bournemouth Echo will be around for a lot longer. Whether that's in print or just online, or I still think print has quite a long future ahead of us. Probably outlive me. I'm optimistic, and I'm optimistic because if you look at the number of people who come to the websites of like the Dorset Echo and Bournemouth to find out what's going on during this crisis, it has the numbers have really exploded, which I think gives us the confidence to think that people do want to come to us because they think that we will give them the facts and the truth, and I think that's very encouraging. We just have to make that pay for us.
Yeah, of course, and I think more and more now, maybe we've got a greater connection to local community. I said at the start of the interview that I've subscribed, and whereas I would trawl the various papers for whatever I was interested in, I now get a nice email that gives me the top stories, and I click, so I now read it every day. So there's a benefit to me as well, and hopefully a benefit to you.
Yeah.
Smashing. So what's your final thoughts then, Andy, to the business community in terms of the support that Newsquest can give to them?
Some of your audience might want to know, well, how much does it cost to subscribe to the website?
Yeah, it's a good point.
And perhaps they thought I hadn't mentioned it because it's really expensive, and in fact, it's quite the opposite. It's less than £1 a week, which for a local news service, professionally trained journalist is very good value. So having got that pitch out there, what I want to say was I would urge, would encourage, almost I would plead with businesses, look, you need to be plugged into your communities. You need to know what's going on, not just in the business community, but in the wider community, because you are part of the wider community. And the more you're plugged into that, the more successful your business is. You have a better understanding of your market and what's going on around you. So I would say, look, if you're a business and you value your local press, please support us. Hopefully we'll be there for you. My commitment is that we are going to cover more and more of what business is doing, particularly in the next few months and into next year. We have always been business partners with the business community, maybe not always as strongly as perhaps some would like, but we are doing our best with limited resources. And just to put some perspective on things, when I became the news editor of the paper, and that was 25 years ago, we had about 120 editorial staff. When I became the editor 6 years ago, we had about 40. And when I stepped down as editor last year into a different role and allegedly semi-retirement, although that hasn't quite happened yet, we had less than 20. So that gives some perspective, and lots of businesses have been through that kind of process. But it is a challenge to produce a newspaper every day, or newspapers every day, and weekly papers and magazines and a website with a very, very small team of people, which again goes to show, I think, how hardworking and dedicated they are. I think that's my final message. Please support us. We need you, and hopefully you need us as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Andy.